Hi there, Year 5, it's Mrs. Flavell here, and today I've got a lovely little excerpt from the beginning of a story called The Mystery of the Colour Thief. It's by Ewa Josefowicz, okay, and it's a nice story that leaves you thinking about what is going to happen later on in this story. It's a good one to draw your own conclusions from, and my questions today are going to be more about you trying to draw conclusions from the text. He came out of nowhere, a man in the smoke. He was nothing more than a shadow at first, a smudge of black in the grey, but as he loomed closer he grew bigger, became more solid. My heart was a drum. He was shouting at me, but the sound bounced off my ears in eerie echoes. His long arms reached out. He was so close that I could smell him, a mix of sweat and burning rubber. He leaned in. 3:05 a.m. The luminous figures stared back at me in the dark. The glow of a street lamp seeped through the wooden slats of my blinds. It was quiet. The man had gone. A nightmare. Though somewhere in the depths of my mind I knew that it was more than just a nightmare. That morning I was late getting ready because Milo wouldn't come in from the garden. He'd been leaping around like a maniac, chasing a tiny vole that he'd found. Eventually I'd managed to get him indoors, and I waited for my best friend, Lou, while grabbing scraps of breakfast. Dad had gone to work already, leaving me a note on the kitchen table. Diz, see you after school. Have a good day. Kiss. Lou usually arrived at 8:45 a.m. on the dot, so we didn't have to rush, but it was almost 8:50 a.m. and she wasn't here. She must have been running late herself and decided to go in on her own. I couldn't wait any longer. I broke into a run as soon as I was outside. My feet hit the pavement in sync with the beating of my heart. The houses on either side of Gulliver Avenue shifted and swayed, and my ears ached inside from the sharp nip of the early autumn air. Clusters of people huddled at the bus stop passed me in a burst of charcoal greys. The white and black of the offices and banks and traffic merged into a single moving stream. I ran and ran till I reached the finish line of the school gates, my arms propped against the railings, my chest ready to burst. The bell had gone. Even the usual crowds of sixth formers with their slouchy rucksacks and rolled up blazer sleeves had disappeared inside. I walked into the empty entrance hall. The questions then. How is the man in the smoke described? What metaphor describes how her heart was? What does she believe that what she has seen is? Who is Milo? Why do you think Diz is running late? Who normally calls for Diz before school? What does my feet hit the pavement in sync with my beating heart mean? What time of year is it? Where does Diz live? Give clues from the text. What did Diz find when she had got to school? Who do you think the man could have been? Why do you think Lou wasn't waiting for Diz? So, how is the man in the smoke described first of all? So, he came out of the nowhere, a man in the smoke. He was nothing more than a shadow at first, a smudge of black in the grey. So, he's described as a shadow and a smudge of black in the grey. Gives us a real ominous feeling about this person. Why is he just suddenly appearing here in the smoke? So what metaphor describes how her heart was? Well, a metaphor describes her heart as something. Okay, so it's describing her heart as a drum. So my heart was a drum is the metaphor. If something is metaphoric, it means it's describing something as something else. Like the sea was an angry lion. That's another metaphor. It's describing the sea as being an angry lion, but the sea obviously is not an angry lion. Right, what does she believe that she's seen? Okay, she believes she's seen a man, but she believes it is a nightmare. And the evidence there was more than a nightmare. Okay, she thinks it was more than a nightmare, but at the moment she's trying to convince herself it's a nightmare. And Milo, okay, so this morning I was late getting ready because Milo wouldn't come in from the garden. He'd been leaping around like a maniac, chasing a tiny vole. The fact that he's chasing a tiny vole, I reckon this Milo is a cat chasing a vole. A vole is like a small shrew type animal, a little bit like a mouse. Okay, and this is what gives me the idea it's actually a cat, not a dog. So why do you think Dizzy's running late? Well, first we know it's because Milo wouldn't come in from the garden, but she had a bad night as well. She'd had a nightmare. I put it in inverted commas because did she have a nightmare? She doesn't quite know whether what she saw was real or not. So that answers the first bit. So it's not just really because of Milo not coming in from the garden, I don't think. I think she slept in a bit as well. Who normally calls for Diz before school? Well, before school, the best friend Lou. So her best friend Lou normally calls for her. What does my feet hit the pavement in sync with my beating heart mean? Okay, hit the pavement and beating of the beating of my heart. So it means she is running as fast as her heart is beating. She's late, she's nervous, her heart rate has quickened and her feet have also quickened because she is running so fast to get to school on time. Okay, so that's what that means. What time of year is it? Well, it's the early autumn, so it is early autumn, and that's what time of year it is. Right, okay, so I think that Diz lives in the city, and I think she lives in the city because she goes past black of offices and banks and traffic merged into a single moving street. I think she lives in the city because there are banks, offices, and streams of traffic. People are waiting by the bus stop to commute themselves into work. That means to go to work on the bus. And when she had got to school, she found that the bell had gone. Everybody had gone into class already. She walks into the empty hallway towards school. Who could the man be? Well, the man could have been a ghost, is probably your first in thoughts. It could have been an escaped convict who is in the area. It could have been a long lost member of the family who's trying to get into contact. It's a bit of a strange time at night, 3:05 a.m., to be wandering around annoying people in their homes while people are sleeping. So why do you think Lou wasn't waiting for Diz? Well, we don't know whether Lou has actually made it into school or not, do we? Because Diz is late. So why hadn't Lou come up and knocked on Dizzy's door to see why Diz was running late? We don't know this. And was Lou ill? Has Lou not actually even managed to call for Diz today because she might not have been well? There's some reason why Lou is not on the scene at the moment. So we're not sure on that one. So you might have thoughts on your own on this. Please write them down, give them some ideas, and we could discuss those possibly when we come back into school. Or you could email them to me. Right, just 3 bonus questions today. So what do you think the title, The Colour Thief, could indicate is going to happen in the story? Number 2, which word means radiating bright light? And number 3, in paragraph 2, the author uses short sentences. Why do you think this happens? Go back, have a look through the text, certainly for question 2 and 3, and then we'll come back with those answers. Again, this is your opinion, thinking about what the answer could be to this one. So what do you think the title, The Colour Thief, could indicate is going to happen in the story? So, well, first of all, the colour thief seems actually is going to be taking colour out of people's lives, I would say, in some way. And the way that he's described to start with, he came out of nowhere, a man in the smoke, or smoke is grey, it's almost colourless, grey is a neutral colour. There is nothing more than a shadow at first, a smudge of black in the grey. Well, things are colourless, they are seen in black, white and grey. Okay, there is no actual bright colour or pigment to them. So this is what I think is possibly going to indicate that could be happening or could happen in the story. So the word that you were looking for that means radiating the bright light was luminous. Something is luminous, it is glowing really brightly. So why does the author use short sentences? It was quiet. The man had gone. A nightmare. Okay, this shows the quick panicking thoughts. Her mind is racing. Okay, she's thinking quickly. What's going on? What has happened? Have I really seen this? Okay, and it's getting you to read it quickly in the way that her mind is racing and her thoughts are going over about what she has just seen. Okay, and finally, there's some really good description in this excerpt. I really liked it because of all the descriptive writing that was in there. Some of them really good vocab, some powerful verbs, and there was that really good metaphor that was used at the beginning. So, a challenge question, write your own description of a mysterious figure. So use paragraph 1 to help you. There's some lovely descriptive words in paragraph 1. You might want to use a dictionary or look up some ideas for yourself, okay? So it would be really nice to see some descriptive writing of a strange character. Hope you've enjoyed this as much as I did. It was nice to read something different, something mysterious, okay? And I will be back with another story excerpt for you tomorrow. Take care, kids. Bye bye.